a lot of the angst about in the current debate on executive compensation has to do with the fact that we are rewarding executives and we are calling it incentive compensation, we are calling it bonus for performance that is current. Bonus by its very definition suggests that somebody has done a good job, so you want to give them a bonus. Many of these executives in these financial firms were close to bankruptcy or were in bankruptcy and had to be rescued by the US taxpayer. I would submit to you that a minimum criteria for a company to be doing well is at least to be not be in bankruptcy. Now, the financial companies might claim that while some senior executive did a good job in their unit and they should be rewarded, but the company overall did not do well, that argument to me is not persuasive. I mean, if you want to reward somebody very well, there has to be a link of their reward with what the shareholders are getting from your company. If your shareholders' returns are negligible or zero or negative in many cases, it's hard to justify a very large financial reward on the basis of a job well done. Goldman Sachs, they have set aside a few $1 billion to compensate their executives, and they say that they have done a very good job. Just last fall, I recall, Goldman Sachs went to the U.S. Treasury with holding out the hand for the U.S. taxpayers' largesse. So maybe they were in bankruptcy or close to bankruptcy last year, and this year they want us to believe that the same executive that got them, or a good number of the executives that got them, in that financial situation, that they did such a good job that now we should reward them. I think that is not persuasive. What we've argued is that other than cash compensation that would be limited to a number like 2 million, all incentive compensation should be either restricted stock or restricted stock options. Restricted in the sense that the executive cannot sell the shares or exercise the options for at least 2 to 4 years after their last day in office. So once the executive knows that while they may have lots of shares and they may have a high net worth on paper, the only way that these shares and options would retain any value if the company retains value after they have left office. So the kinds of projects, the kinds of activities they have to get involved in have to create real sustainable value for shareholders. Let's take the example of Joe Naccio, the ex-CEO of Quest, who is now currently serving a jail term somewhere in the East Coast. Now, if Joe Naccio's compensation had been based on stock and stock option, restricted stock option that he could not have sold for at least 3 years after his last day in office, he might not have had the temptation to make those false statements that he did, that at least the jury in Denver said that he misled his investors. So one of the reasons why he might have misled them is because he wanted the share price to be high. While the share price was high, he was selling his shares and telling publicly that these shares are very valuable and one should hold them and not sell them, whereas in his own account he was going on selling these shares. If he was not allowed to sell these shares, then at least he would not have had any economic incentive to make these false statements, and he may well not have been in prison at this time. This research was done jointly with my PhD student who graduated from here a few years back, Brian Bolton. So what this would suggest is that our doctoral students are doing, what I would say, impactful research. and that the research that is being done in the Leeds School is helping serious senior government policymakers come up with policies that would have a significant impact on corporation and indeed on the economy at some larger level.